with that answer, didn't I? Thank you.
Coach Tomlin confirming we will see Ben Roethlisberger Saturday here at Heinz Field for the Steelers' third preseason game, the only one at home. Hi, everybody. I'm Missi Matthews. Welcome to Training Camp Live, presented by FedEx, where now meets next. I am joined by Craig Wolfley. We're both back from Philly, as is the team. There is practice day here at Heinz Field. Wolf, they are not in pads, just helmets today. So maybe just easing back in as they finish out their last leg of Heinz Field before moving back to the south side. But that third preseason game coming up, we want to go back, though, and talk about the one in Philly in just a little bit. But some big news in terms of a trade. The Steelers announced prior to practice today they have acquired linebacker Joe Shobert from the Jacksonville Jaguars in exchange for their 2022 sixth-round pick. So welcome back to the AFC North, Joe.
Exactly so. We've seen this young man for a number of years over in Cleveland and then in Jacksonville. The fact is, this young man is a prolific performer. I mean, this is a guy does a great job of, whether he's a quarterback in the defense, if he's got the green dot, or if he's one of these guys that is out there tackling a tackling machine. He is also very good in coverage skills. So I'm excited. Think about this guy. You know, he was in Cleveland during the worst of the Cleveland years. He's in Jacksonville during the year when things didn't go well. I would think if I'm Joe Shobert, I am like hyped, totally psyched up to come to a winning tradition-oriented football team like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
News started trickling out during Thursday night's game. Again, the Steelers not making it official until today. It does not appear he is out on the practice fields here at Heinz Field, so we might have to wait a day or two to see him. But his wife was tweeting Thursday night using yins, so I think that was her way of letting everybody know where he was heading to. In terms of the Steelers' decision to trade for him, because obviously you're giving up some draft capital for next year's draft, Wolf, what makes this so attractive to Pittsburgh?
Well, I think one of the things that you like about this guy is, and if you go to post-game press conference in Philly, Mike had talked about the fact that the communication on the front end has been a little iffy. And one of the factors he talked about was that Shobert is one of these known communicators, a guy that is able to transfer the calls, make sure everybody's on the same page, and is a known yapper in Mike's kind of vernacular. You want guys like that. You need make guys that make sure that they're communicating to everybody the same thing. And he's just one of these guys that has great leadership qualities, a guy that has proven he's excellent in coverage. He's got a number of interceptions, I think near double-digit career interceptions. He's around the ball a lot. I think he brings an awful lot of maturity to the linebacker crew, and I think the fact is Devin Bush just coming off a knee injury, Robert Spillane, you know, not maybe having some limitations in down the field coverage issues. It's a great pickup. This is very Minka Fitzpatrick-like by Kevin Colbert to go out and get something where you see a need, you fill the need.
And I do think that inside linebacker depth was something the Steelers had some question marks about. I know it's something we've talked a lot about in terms of the media heading into this training camp, but also, you know, some fun facts about Shobert. He grew up in Wisconsin and went to the University of Wisconsin with Derek and TJ Watt. He was in the same draft class as Derek. They, I think, were 10 miles apart, so probably rival high schools, so he knows those two very well. And also going back to that 2017 Pro Bowl where Coach Tomlin and his staff were in charge of the AFC team throughout the week. You know, Melvin Ingram has talked about it. You know, Joe Hayden's one of those guys that had a relationship with Coach Tomlin over the years before coming to Pittsburgh. And I bet you when we have a chance to hear from Shobert, Wolf, he'll probably say something along the lines of how he's gotten to know Coach and wanted to come play for him and be here in Pittsburgh.
You know, to be truthful, you talk to a lot of guys out there. They'd love to play in Pittsburgh. That's a pretty well-known fact. And I would say, yeah, you'll want to be here. But certainly for a guy like Shobert, having been through some of the misery years in Cleveland and Jacksonville, this has got to be something that's exciting to him. And I'm sure his wife, and I know that Yinzer is very good. She forgot the "and-nat" part of it. So if you got the Yinzer and the "and-nat," that would have been perfect.
We'll send you to a help teacher. Now, we don't, as we said, not seeing him out here on the practice field right now. The Steelers are starting to get ready to do warm-ups and heading into individuals, and we'll take you down to the field in just a few minutes. But if you were in charge, Wolf, knowing that he's kind of just getting his bearings here in Pittsburgh, would you play him on Saturday when the Lions come to town?
Oh, there's no question. If I can get him into some sort of game action, yeah, I'd like to see him in limited reps. You get maybe a certain amount of plays that he's comfortable with, and then have him have the ability to get out there and start to operate with his guys. I mean, you got a whole week. This is a guy who's experienced. It's not his first rodeo, as our Mike Prisuta might say at other times. He's going to be a guy that knows his business, and for him to get out there with his teammates as quickly as possible, doesn't have to be a lot of reps. Just the fact that he gets out there and is able to show kind of what he's capable of doing, show the kind of leadership that he's capable of providing, and certainly any aspects to his game is going to be appreciated. This guy's a run and hit guy that can cover. I like him. I've always liked him. We got to see him twice a year for a number of years, a few years there after coming in the draft, him playing for Cleveland. So you got a good idea of what he's all about, and I think he's going to have a pretty good idea what Steelers are all about.
And honestly, a 6th-round draft pick, I think that's more than fair.
Wow.
And that definitely helps. Of course, if you look towards next year's draft, the Steelers currently don't have a 4th, 5th, or 6th round pick right now. But as Kevin Colbert is always very calculated, I know Bob Labriola had a chance to speak with him, so we'll hear more from him in our wrap-up show and also on Steelers.com. When they make moves like that, trading up to draft Isaiah Loudermilk, they always look what's going to happen next year, and I think they're planning for some compensatory picks for sure. And of course, we know the salary cap will be much more team-friendly next year as well.
Kevin Colbert is such a masterful operator at that level. I would not second guess him at any point, just because his proven track record. And by the way, I've heard this before too. Kevin Colbert will be in the Hall of Fame someday. He's going to be one of those guys, one of those contributors that has contributed so much to the NFL and to Steelers football in particular. He's going to be another gold jacket guy too.
And always consistently, above the line there. You see Shobert number 53 when he was with the Browns. I think that number is probably taken here with the Steelers. He wore 47 for Jacksonville, so we'll have to find out what number he's going to wear here in Pittsburgh. But, Coach Tomlin was asked on Thursday after the game for a reaction to Shobert, said, not much I can say, but when I am allowed and if it happens, I will be happy to do so. So excited to hear what Coach Tomlin says after practice today at Heinz Field. So we'll stay tuned for that. But Wolf, I do want to go back to Thursday's night game, the second one for the Steelers, first for the Eagles. So we knew there wasn't going to be a ton of game planning. The Steelers kind of following the same regiment that they did in the Hall of Fame game. What's the biggest thing you took away after watching that game?
Oh, Gadzooks, the offensive line and running game is back, baby. That's it. You know it. I mean, you think about it. First of all, you got Mason Rudolph coming and doing a good yeoman's job. I had to operate under the problem of having a couple holding calls and so forth. Did very well. Dwayne Haskins came in, did a very nice job, really upped his game. He looked very good as well. But to watch this offensive line, which, was a little bit kind of started and spurted and puttered a little bit. Then it got its wheels going, the 4-wheel drive. And what I saw was really enjoyable in this. You saw guys coming off the ball and physically challenging the dudes over them. And it wasn't just physically challenging them. They were moving their feet. They weren't stopping on contact. They weren't just locking up. They played with a lower pad level than I've seen them in recent times. Even the guys in the third and fourth quarter were coming off the ball, and it was like a fist in the face. Just go after them, move that line of scrimmage back, and be able to deliver running lanes for the backs. And we saw some very good running with Najee Harris, of course, but also Jalen Samuels looked very good. Anthony McFarland showed some things. So the fact of the matter is the running game under Adrian Clem's tutelage has really brought a change of attitude around where these guys are physically getting after it and getting after their opponents and doing so until the whistle. And these are big, they sound minor, but they're big changes, believe you me.
All right, we're taking a live look down on the field. The Steelers resuming practice at Heinz Field. They'll practice again tomorrow. There we see Dwayne Haskins. We saw Josh Dobbs. As everyone's starting to get the warm-ups in, and the rotation for quarterbacks stayed the same with Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins, Josh Dobbs. What did you make of what Mason was able to do? We did see him in 3 series. Kind of anticipated it would only be 2, but obviously, as Coach says, we're light on our feet.
Well, there's no question. I mean, unfortunately, his drives were nullified with holding calls, with Chooks Okorafor jumping off sides on a 3rd and 2, which you can't do, or 3rd and whatever it was. But those things are drive killers, and you've got to make sure that you're playing as clean as possible. I get it. I realize that they were going to be more under the microscope this second game in Philly versus the Canton game, and they certainly were. They a little more flag heavy. But the fact is, when you see, what they were after, they're trying to get Mason doing the job, and Dwayne Haskins came in and did a great job in what I saw from him, and it was big in the fact that, Dwayne was one of these guys, in my mind, he showed his capabilities coming off his first target, second option, that sort of thing, and, Mike Tomlin referenced that and said he was really in command of the offense.
Coach Tomlin said before the game he wanted to see the things that weren't necessarily stats with those guys, the above the neck things. What did you see in terms of that for all three guys in their second outing?
Well, I thought Mason ran it really well and threw some good balls. We've seen him with Chase Claypool. You had one safety high back then. There's a saying in the NFL, as I've said it before, one safety high, let it fly. You're going to let it go, challenge the one-on-one coverage, and he did in Canton. There was a 50-yard plus pass completion there. Then, of course, you got the same thing happening in Philadelphia. A nice ball down to Deontay Johnson, 33 yards there. He's thrown the ball down the field, and, that's one of the things you wanted to see this year was their ability to be able to throw the ball down the field, challenge the safeties, put them in conflict, and see what you can get out of it. Well, Mason's looked well in that. Dwayne Haskins, like I said, one of these guys that, as Mike said, he goes through his progressions. He goes 1, 2, 3. All of a sudden, he goes back to 1, and he completes the ball. This is showing command of the offense. Josh Dobbs has done some nice work rolling out, using his feet to put him in position to vary the launch point and be able to complete some passes. So all three guys, I thought, directed the offense as well. Of course, in particular, I thought Dwayne Haskins really stood out.
All right, we had a chance to hear from Dwayne Haskins after the game on Thursday night. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, Coach Sullivan came up to me and said be like a jazz player, so this is pretty much be smooth, and that's kind of what I was trying to do today, was just be smooth and allow the plays to come to me and trust in what I saw and letting my eyes tell me and my feet tell me where to go with the ball. Jazz. Yeah, jazz.
What? Is it smooth? Is it improvisation?
Jazz is real smooth, man, blues and all that stuff, man. You just bop your head and, snap your fingers.
How important was that performance?
It was great. It was probably the most fun I've had since I came here. Surprised since I came in the league, really. It's just a lot of the energy, the fans in the stadium, guys gravitating towards me. And it was a lot of fun to be out there and just, put some points on the board and, get a win.
Well, if I like what Coach Tomlin said after the game as well, they want to see more of everybody, not just, the quarterbacks. There's a lot of guys fighting for reps. 2 more preseason games. We know Ben's going to play in some capacity here on Saturday night against the Lions in the Steelers' 3rd preseason game. A lot being made about who his backup is. Is there anything you can read between the tea leaves here in terms of what they've been doing so far in games and in practice, or do you think they are really just trying to figure out what guys are capable of and who's comfortable, who's not, and what they're figuring out?
I really believe that they're going about the process of letting the process show them what's available, and each man has stepped forward. We've seen, like I said, from Mason, we've seen some nice long balls. From Dwayne Haskins, we've seen some, I know Mike called them check down, and I know that Matt Canada said, I hope that he doesn't let Mike goad him into doing anything other than what his eyes tell him to do and what his feet carry him to do. And that's really what Dwayne has been doing. He's been doing exactly as Mike talked about. And I think Josh Dobbs is just one of those guys who has great athletic ability, and he shows the movement capabilities of a mobile quarterback, throwing on the sprint outs, throwing on the rollouts and that. So I'm interested to see how much of the Matt Canada offense we see with Ben Roethlisberger as we go to this dress rehearsal with the Lions. That's going to be as close as we're going to get a glimpse of any sort of strategic type decisions offensively before the opener up in Buffalo.
Do you need to see Ben Roethlisberger in preseason action for you personally, Wolf?
I don't in that sense of, but I know Ben and I know what vets like to do. They want to get some game action before the things are all live. For Ben, it's about just getting comfortable, being out there, feeling the rush around you, because he's very well protected in practice, which he better be, right? That's a multi-million-dollar man. You got to take care of him. But at the same time, when things are flying live, you want to get the feel of that rush. And believe you me, game speed, as much as you try to simulate game speed in practice, it's never the same, and the adrenaline doesn't flow. You've got to be a master of all those those situations during the game. And I think, it's just nice to get your feet wet in the preseason.
All right, if you're just joining us, you are taking a live look at the Steelers practice here at Heinz Field. They'll practice again tomorrow. Players stay off on Monday in preparation for their third game against the Lions. I do want to switch over to the defense, Wolf, and talk about Melvin Ingram, one of the other new kids on the block, and Joe Shobert. A lot of new faces as they're getting antiquated. There you see him right there, number 8, talking to Keith Butler. So weird to see an outside linebacker with a single digit, but I'm getting used to it. What have you seen from him through camp? And then, of course, the action. He played a limited number of snaps, though, on Thursday in Philly.
The thing about Melvin Ingram, he is a vet, and you can see it in his mannerisms and his actions. Whether he's out on the practice field, he's been impactful. You notice him. You see him around the pile. You see him making plays. During the game in Philly, it was interesting because at one point they swapped sides, and they had Alex Highsmith on the left side, and Melvin Ingram went to the right side. It was interesting to me because to see them do it for like a series or so, it just lets you know that even though you don't have TJ out there, you're preparing these guys to be able to go either side, and it's a good thing to do. He is a guy that has capabilities, a rundown bully, as Mike Tomlin said. We want to see more of that rundown bully. You want to have a number of rundown bullies. So I look for him to be more of a contributor, and with a guy like Shobert, I really like where our linebacking core has kind of stepped up. With the addition of Melvin Ingram, with the addition of Joe Shobert, there's some significant reps between those two guys that can be played out this year, to be sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was disappointed. I think it was Tuesday, if my days are correct, whenever the Steelers had a rain delay, then they tried to practice, then they just called it all off. But that was when Coach told us he challenged Ingram in front of the team during their early morning meeting to say, we're coming for you today in practice. And unfortunately, we didn't really get to see that.
No, we didn't get to see it, but you know what the man's capable of bringing. I've seen him on tape before and in live action when he was out on the West Coast there with the Chargers. This guy is capable of playing ball, and he's been a Pro Bowler. There's no surprise to what he can bring. So he looks healthy, he looks good, he looks strong. He was doing his run and hit stuff in Philly, showing what he's capable of doing. And I just look for him just to build on it. He is a veteran. Right now, he's not going to tear himself up. He's going to make sure that he's prepping and moving along, getting ready to play the opener.
All right, and no pads again today for the Steelers, but Ingram, as you said, just one of those vets. You feel it in his presence. He is the same way with the media. Here he is post-game on Thursday night in Philly.
Yeah, no, we just getting reps on both sides. The more you can do in this league, the better for you. So me and him just playing both sides. You never know, with injuries that happen, all type of stuff, you never know. Anything could come up. So I always tell him, let's get reps at both sides so we can be comfortable both places.
Melvin, if you had time to practice with Devin, what was it like maybe in a game setting?
No, it was great. It was great. I love Devin. From the first day I got here, me and him just clicked, and it was great just to be out there with him, hearing his communication and everything. It was definitely dope.
Melvin, what's been your impression overall of this defense? More from the intangible sense, the guys that are leaders.
Oh man, it's been phenomenal since day one. Just how they lead, just how they work, and how they play. They come to work every day ready to put the work in, no matter what the day is or what the occasion is. So it's just been a blessing to be a part of it.
And he was talking about that position flexibility, as you said, swapping sides with Alex Highsmith in the game. That's something Coach said was, interesting about bringing him into the Steelers. And Coach did explain during his pre-game press conference here in Pittsburgh before the team traveled to Pittsburgh, the decision of, what TJ Watt is doing with his contract situation. But, kind of maybe calmed it down a little bit of, when Cam Hayward, somebody we've seen here, also warming up here at practice with Melvin Ingram up his year when he was working out a contract. We know the Steelers operate where once that ball is kicked for that first regular season game, negotiations don't happen. So that is something that obviously the Steelers and TJ Watt are working through. And we've heard from Art Rooney II, the team president in training camp, Wolf, it is something they want to get accomplished.
No question about it. Think about these three linebackers you could have. TJ Watt, who's in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year, should have been Defensive Player of the Year. You've got Melvin Ingram, who's a Pro Bowl performer. Alex Highsmith is a guy who definitely has got some Pro Bowl aspirations himself and is capable. So I love this, what it looks like with the outside linebackers. And one of the outside linebackers that we haven't talked about yet since we're here would be Jameer Jones.
Oh, yes.
The young guy from Notre Dame.
Number 44.
44. Remember that number, because I'll tell you this, when you see the Detroit Lions and you watch on defense, watch how many times 44 starts to appear in and around the ball, whether directly blowing up guys on the special teams or coming around and doing the work as a pass rusher. Got a sack the other night, run stopper, set in the edge, got good strength. This guy, I thought Quincy Roche had a good start coming out in Canton, but you know what? You keep seeing this guy, and he is one of those guys that grabs your attention because he just keeps making plays or shows up around the ball.
I had a chance to catch up with Jameer Jones after the game in Philly, and I said, that's 2 games you've shown that you can rush. You're putting good, back to back, which is something Coach Tomlin always talks about. And he said, I am here, God willingly, and I am taking every opportunity I can to do so. He said this time last year he was sitting on his couch, didn't have a job. So he is definitely one of those guys that is embracing the opportunity and, really trying to compete for a spot on that 53-man roster.
Absolutely, and he's doing a great job of it. He's making you notice him, and that's what you want out of a young guy who's got no real track record or resume, so to speak, such as a Melvin Ingram. But, this is a guy that comes out and starts making plays, and you start to notice. And I love the fact that he's making the most of not that many opportunities. Let's face it, the offense was out there for 41 minutes in Philadelphia. The defense, they're sitting on having some Gatorades in the second half, enjoying themselves, right?
I don't know if you're enjoying yourselves. It was like 100 degrees down there.
Well, but the defense might have been, they could have ordered a Philly cheesesteak for crying out loud there. That's the type of football you want to see out of a guy, impactful in whatever reps that he brings. If it's 2 reps, if it's 20 reps, let's see where you show up. We see right there, he's stretching out and he's getting loose, and the defense should be loose because they didn't work as hard as the offense there Thursday night.
Yeah, one more quick note. We saw TJ Watt there as well. He is a guy that has been at every practice. He travels with the team. He was on the sideline in Canton, on the sideline on Thursday in Philly. Definitely playing the Ben Roethlisberger, Cam Hayward role where, you're coaching up the young guys and whatnot, but very invested as well. And just a friendly reminder, this week, I guess I should say the start of next week, it's still Saturday. The first cut will take place on August 17th. All teams will have to go from 90 players to 85. Then on August 24th, they go down to 80. And then on August 31st, that is after everybody's final preseason game, your 53-man roster is put in, practice squads are built. And then as we know, Wolf, there's lots of juggling and changes happening as unfortunately a large number of players across the league find themselves without a team. So sometimes there's some, mixing and mashing and seeing what another team did and, the difference, what that 53-man roster will be on August 31st will not be the same when they kick off in Buffalo week 1.
No doubt about it. He goes through various adjustments in personnel. And, the thing about it is I remember back in my day, that last cut is a tough one. You've been through, at our time period, it was like 6-7 weeks of tough, hard training camp. And I will never forget Tunchilkin coming out to me. He'd just been released, and I didn't know it. And he said, in the immortal words of Jean-Paul Sartre, "Au revoir, go fair," which was a line from a Caddyshack movie back then. And he was cut, and 6 weeks later he comes back, and he turns out to be one of the 33 all-time greatest, Hall of Honor, multiple Pro Bowler. I mean, the story isn't finally written even when the story is ending. You never know, and things adjust. So to all those guys out there, you fight till the very last bit, and your resume is on tape. You never know how it will be.
No doubt, and Coach Tomlin always says we don't care where you came from as long as you are putting your hand in the pile. And whenever we officially announced the signing of Joe Shobert, I went to follow him on Twitter, and his profile says former walk-on at the University of Wisconsin. So he remembers where he came from, and now he is, still staying in the NFL. So a lot to be thankful for, and can't wait to see him out on the practice field at some point. Also hear from him and get remarks from Coach Tomlin. So hopefully some of that will take place later today. We will keep you posted, of course. But Going back to Thursday's game, I know you briefly touched on the offensive line. Wolf, Kevin Dotson, first time we saw him in a game, not with the first team, however, with the second team. What did you see from his debut this preseason?
You know, it was a little shaking off of the rust, and I'm looking at the Dotson. I'm going, wow. You know, he'd come off, and there was a split on a double team. They didn't get much movement. He did this, and all of a sudden they come to a rundown, and he takes this 3 technique, this huge guy from Philly, nice 300 pounds plus, and takes him off the ball. And I'm going, now that's Dotson football right there. That's what you're waiting to see. This is a guy, a young man who's got great capabilities. And whatever the disturbance or dust up was with Mike Tomlin, Mike making sure that he got his point across to Kevin Dotson about something, I don't know. But I do know this, they're working on the double teams, and he is capable of being a one-man double team by himself. I mean, he can take people off the ball. I love the way he run blocks. He comes off very physical. He pulled down the line on a trap block, kicked out. Beautiful job of getting inside out on the man and just turning the guy's body. He is probably, could well be the best of the offensive linemen right there. I will say this, Dotson is the Cadillac of the offensive line. All right, if you want to put it in terms
I like that analogy. I understand it. We just saw Zach Banner and also Dan Moore, a rookie from the 2021 class. We did not see Banner in action. Do you think we're getting closer, and maybe this game with Ben knowing that he's going to play, we might see 72 on Saturday?
I would think. I keep hoping, because for Zach, he needs to get out there and get some reps. Not with the boys per se, with himself. He needs to be able to develop that confidence that knee is good and strong, and you got to only get that when you're out there going live in various situations, finding out about your knee bend. You know, is your knee going to take a blow? Are you confident you can take a blow? These are things that you don't really think about until you're injured. Get that rehab, then you come back out. But this offensive line, by and large, overall, did such a terrific job. Like I said, being out there for 41 minutes, they just went to we're in the city of Philadelphia. You know, they have a picture of Rocky Balboa there.
Yep.
That was Rocky Balboa going to the body that whole second half, that running game. They just kept pounding away. And I love it, because that has been Steelers football. Poor Zach. We just saw Zach do a face beater and ends up on the ground. But, that's what.
It happens.
Yes, it does happen. It does happen with us offensive linemen. But, the fact that you can pound the ball, pound the rock is something that we missed last year, and they got to continue with that.
Who else from the O-line stood out to you on Thursday?
You know what? J.C. Hassenauer did a fine job. I saw him get hold of a Rashad Smith, number 53, a pretty tough linebacker for the Philly Eagles, and he body tossed him. I mean, that was a nice job by the Hassenauer. You can see right now they're working combo blocks together. You double team, and somebody's got to come off. You can't allow the run through on a seal block, that sort of thing, and they're working on it. But J.C. Hassenauer looked very good. Young man, Dan Moore, looked good too.
Big Dan.
Yeah, Big Dan. You can see where he's a little tentative in his techniques, but you can see his athleticism. You can see his large bodiness, how he uses it. Even when he's not overwhelming physically, he's using his body to make sure he shields in the proper direction. These are things that I think he's going to grow in. We saw Chooks. Chooks started off, in my mind, a little bit slow, but he started picking it up, and we started to see him use that strength and athletic ability like he should once he got rolling, and did a fine job. He's got a great lockout. He's got some great feet, and he's got to be able to use them. I thought Joe Haig did a nice job, especially when he got rolled up in the back of the legs. I'm thinking, that hurts. That hurts. I've Tunch Ilkin threw a guy in the back of my legs, broke a bone in my ankle. To this day, I blame him. But the fact is, it happens out there. Guys get rolled up, and you've got to be able to get your feet out rather quickly. And Joe did. I was glad, because it looked for a moment like he was going to be hurt, but he was able to kick his feet out and react fast enough. Those guys did a good job. I thought Rashad Coward did a nice job of blocking on some plays too. So up and down the line, Kendrick Green, another young buck. He had some up plays, some really good stuff, and some not so good stuff. Gave up a sack, got bull rushed a little bit, but you're going to have that. That's the life of an offensive lineman. You toil and sweat, blood and tears, And sometimes the only one that knows that you're doing any good is the offensive line coach, the head coach, and the quarterback. But other than that, it's a situation where for a young guy like Kendrick, the older guys got to let him know, hang in there, you're doing fine. Just, be patient.
And somebody who I don't think Trey Turner is practicing today, but we had a chance to see him on Thursday night. How did you see him fare? Not that Coach Tomlin probably needed to see him play in a game. This is a Pro Bowler we're talking about, but, getting a chance to work with Kendrick Green.
Well, Trey Turner is, like you said, a Pro Bowler. He's a mauler. And one of the things that, just watching him perform, he got a holding call. That's not so good. Happened on a kick-out block that he had. The other thing is on wall right, and wall is when you have the center, tackle, or guard and tackle. 3 guys generally taking on 2 or sometimes 3, depends on who's rushing. But, you've got as a guard, you got to sit with your center, and you want to stay in the same level. And I think there was a little mix-up between Kendrick Green and Trey Turner on the one pass rush, and I think Trey could have helped him out more. And I only say that as a fellow offensive guard who was abandoned at center and was roundly, ripped by Mike Webster for not.
You remember that?
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
Trey right there next to Zach Banner.
When you have a future Hall of Famer ripping you because you didn't set down to him enough, you remember that, So I think for Trey, he might have helped Kendrick out a little bit, but still, you got to hold the point for Kendrick. You got to get down lower. These are big, strong guys. That was Javon Hargrave, if you remember, former Steeler that
he
got
was there
on the
on
rush.
Thursday night.
Yes, he was there. It's great. I mean, those are the bodies that you want to be up against, compete against the really good guys. Javon is a very good inside rusher, and you just got to keep working your techniques. And that's what I love about Adrian Clem. He puts them in situations, breaking down the techniques, but also understanding that this is part and parcel, and talks to him about it. It's about the heart you have. This is about putting yourself out there and going after a man physically and being able to dominate and get it done. It's not done just totally with technique. You got to have the heart of a lion, and I think that's what he's trying to instill in these guys.
All right, we're now moving over to the running backs as they are beginning individuals here at Heinz Field. If you're just joining us, again, not in pads today, just working themselves back from an off day yesterday following the Eagles preseason game in Philly on Thursday night. But some encouraging news, number 24, Benny Snell, is out there. Also looking at Anthony McFarland, I know you briefly mentioned him, but what did you see from him and his opportunity to play on Thursday night?
Well, you know what? He showed some good awareness in being able to make a couple cuts. Again, he got on some special teams, but, he scored a touchdown. And he scored a touchdown because he didn't give up. You see right there, you got a little nice zig and zag, being able to run up the backside of somebody and not give up. Right here, you saw bounce, 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 and find your way into the end zone. Mike Tomlin has referenced this. Guys that score are guys that just don't give up. It's about having an attitude that, when you're coming up short, you're going to find a way. You keep bouncing, keep your feet, and push yourself into the end zone. And that's what you respect, because the offensive line may not win on the first surge, maybe not on the second surge, but that third surge could carry you into the end zone. And that's one of the things that you see when you see an Anthony McFarland score from 1 yard out. It was a bounce, hit a couple guys in the backside, maybe goose them a little bit. They get the extra keister drive going. But I love the running game. The running game was so important. McFarland, again, shows that ability to take that ball and that quick acceleration that gets you 3, 4, 5 yards. And we saw Jalen Samuels do very, very well running the ball. Jalen Samuels is a guy that's always kind of mystified me a little bit, because, his rookie year, he rushed for over 100 yards against the Patriots. I thought, wow, that's something, and then we've just not seen a whole lot from him. Maybe it's not having the opportunity to do it, but certainly he has shown again that he's still got capabilities, and I know that at some point in time he's got to feel like, let me bust loose. There's another guy, Trey Edmonds, who's done a nice job of, when he gets the ball, which is not frequent, but he's shown some offensive capabilities besides the fact that he's a special teams stud and a guy that can block very well. We saw him snogulate, which is that's snot and blood coagulating.
Oh boy, okay.
Big hits. Yeah, that's a highly technical term.
That's a new one.
Well, I do pride myself on being, having a
doctor
variety
on
of,
TV.
yeah. I shouldn't really play with a doctor on TV. But the fact is, You see Trey Edmonds, he's a powerful guy. And if you can take that strength in blocking and then also add to it some offensive characteristics when he has the opportunity to catch the ball. And we've seen him catch the ball in preseason and run with it. So that, again, is good stuff.
After the game, Anthony McFarland, I had a chance to catch up with him in the locker room to talk about the patience that he learned from his rookie season and how he feels like he's doing in year 2.
Well, from what I can remember, great job up front from our O-line, man, just telling us we're going to get it in, keep driving and keep pushing, and all the credit goes to them.
You had said that you learned from your rookie season to be more patient. Do you feel yourself doing that 2 games in now?
Oh, yeah. As I just get the ball more and more, practice is always going to be different from the game. But in the game, as I get the ball more and more, just learning how to be comfortable, just being patient, not being so jitterous, and, just taking it one play at a time.
The health at the running back position has not been the greatest heading into that game in Philly. As we said, it looks like Benny Snell is out there working with, and also I saw number 29, Kalen Ballage, who had a good game in Canton.
No question about it. Kalen Ballage got to get back on the field, and of course Benny Snell would be great. But I just loved what I heard from Anthony McFarland because it takes me back. Talking about patience, we see the quick twitch in this guy. This guy's got so much quick twitch. He's like a sneeze. It's just boom, and he can explode. But problem is, when you're that fast and that quick, one of the things that is a detriment to you is not having patience. I go back to Willie Parker, and of course Willie Parker in the 75-yard run in the Super Bowl fame. Willie Parker said one of the greatest moments for him, teachable moments, was Jerome Bettis saying, "Willie, you got to slow down a little bit. You got to let the guys do the job up front and be patient and let them get the work done so that when you see it, you can hit the afterburners and go." He said, be confident they're going to do their job, but be patient so that you're not, because Willie said, I was always hitting the whole 100 miles an hour. And well, that's what Anthony was doing early on. The more reps he gets and the more he realizes slow down and then explode, the better he's going to be. And I like hearing that because that's echoing the words of over a decade ago of Jerome Bettis.
Who's the Hall of Famer? Might know a thing or two. Maybe. Has a gold jacket.
He knows something about running the ball.
All right, I do want to move over to the tight ends, Wolf, as we are nearing competition period here at Heinz Field. The Steelers practicing without pads coming off a player's day off. Number 88, Pat Freiermuth. We had a chance to finally see him in some preseason game action. What did you see from him on Thursday night?
You know what? I saw him body toss somebody, by golly. It was great. We know that he can catch the ball. We know that he can run the routes and be that receiver. But, blocking has been, he's working hard at it. He's fighting. He's doing the things need to. But we've not seen much of it, and all of a sudden we saw it. And good for him. That's what we need to see. These are 2 other guys we need to see. Zach Gentry at 6'8", but I saw Zach Gentry absolutely obliterate a couple of guys. Hey, that is beautiful. I mean, Zach was he's been a work in progress. He's gotten stronger. He's been squatting barbells and, getting stronger. Kevin Rader's another guy, and it showed up. Kevin Rader has had some great outings in blocking and everything and catching the ball. Zach Gentry, again, showed me something because on the counter tray, pulling behind the tackle, we saw him wipe out a linebacker. I love stuff like that. When you palpitate linebackers at 6'8", you're doing a heck of a job, meaning you got to get down to their level and be able to use those ham hocks to dig a guy out. Kevin Rader's another guy that has really performed well. I think special teams as well is going to be, and you see Danny Smith down there, the special teams coach. He's going to be a guy that he's going to call on Kevin Rader. And Freiermuth, to go back to what I saw, you know what? That's the blocking I kind of expected from a Penn State tight end. I know it's a pass-catching Penn State tight end, but by golly, you expected this young man to be able to kind of run block a little better. Well, he's showing me he's run blocking better.
All right, well, you'll like what he said in the locker room after the game on Thursday. Let's take a listen to his welcome to the NFL moment.
Yeah, it was awesome to get out there, just kind of see what the NFL experience was like. There was definitely some moments where, it was welcome to the league, blocking some big dudes and stuff like that, just went to college. But I was happy to get out there and play as long as I did to get that experience.
Can you give me a specific example of one of those welcome to the league?
First play of the game when I went in there, Brandon Graham was in there, and I was on the backside of outside zone, and you know, he put me on the ground. I got a holding call, but definitely don't want that to happen. But it's a learning experience, and I'm happy that it happened in the preseason, not in an actual game.
All right, everyone has to go through one of those, right, Wolf?
Yes, indeed.
Do you remember yours?
Oh, yeah, I do. You know what? And it's kind of funny because it's not exactly his experience. My first play in the NFL was in New York against the New York Football Giants in the Meadowlands. It was a two-trap, and I was pulling from my left guard to the right guard position, and it was Larry Brown, the great Larry Brown, Hall of Honor offensive tackle Larry Brown for the Steelers, and then George Martin, the defensive end for New York Football Giants. And as I pulled, I came roaring, and I was like a blind dog in a meat house. I had the horns lowered. I mean, just screaming like crazy. And they must have heard me coming because Larry Brown, who was kind of butted up against George Martin, they each stepped back, and I went right between the middle of them and face planted and just about knocked myself out on the artificial turf. And I came back to the huddle kind of groggily, and I remember that Mike Webster says, well, did you get anybody? And Larry Brown said, no, he missed all of us.
All right, well, that is going to do it for our training camp live show presented by FedEx. Wolf, it's unfortunately our last one as we begin the process to move back to the south side, the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. So it has been fun, long days of training camp, but glad to do the show with you.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Make sure you tune in after practice for our wrap-up show. Bob Labriola will be with me. He had a chance to talk to GM Kevin Colbert about the trade for Joe Shobert, so you are not going to want to miss that. We'll see you guys then.